तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदामह्यं ददाति वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापरकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे।
Anybody have the document page?
Yeah. Announce that first. What the page on the document is, where we are at. The document.
Mr. Jibo, maybe you could also just say which chapter and what paragraph.
Just say which line, like you say if you want to.
Yeah, I guess we could search.
We're still on the first chapter.
This is the page at the bottom. Of
We are.
What page are you on?
Books by other
Oh no, this is different. What you have is different. But we are, as far as my knowledge goes, we are here where it says there is no question of harassment. Whatever protection is there. So these profession is accepted from Vedic time. Different kinds of men are engaged in different kinds of activity. This is page number 2 here, on the bottom.
A few paragraphs.
It's like pretty much in the very beginning.
Conversation with High Griever?
No, Mr. Kanwar.
Yeah, page 26. Last paragraph.
It's better if maybe there's a system where a bookmark is placed
You do that.
every time.
Well, I
There's
thought
no
that
question of harassment. 25 of 294.
Okay. All right. Can somebody read? Because I talk a lot, so I don't want to read.
we're at Krishna says.
No. So there is no question of harassment.
Page 25.
Just start. Someone
So
start.
there is no question of harassment. Whatever is the production is there. So these profession is accepted from Vedic time. Different kinds of men engaged in different kinds of activities. Maybe a florist, maybe a potter, maybe a cobbler, maybe anything, grain producer, so many. Society requires so many things. So according to Vedic system, there's a class. And Bhagavat says that you are engaged in your occupational duty, so whether you're getting success by such occupational duty. The Vedic system does not condemn anyone. You are a potter. Oh, you are lower. No, you are as good as a priest because you're doing your duty. That's all right. Never condemns. This is development of later age when the so-called Brahmanas became, treacherous. They began to condemn so-called lower class. There was disruption, the whole social system, but in the beginning it was not. So they have got respectable terms, just like a Brahmana is addressed as Pandit Maharaj, a Kshatriya is addressed as Thakur, Sahib, Thakur, and a merchant is addressed Setji, and the laborer class is addressed as Chaudhari, means leader. In this way, everyone has got respectable position. Why? Because the test of their success was one, Vishnu, success. So karmana tam abhyarcha siddhim vindati manavaha, from Bhagavad Gita 18:46. By worship of the Lord, who is the source of all beings and who is all-pervading, a man can attain perfection through performing his own work. Whatever your occupation may be, that doesn't matter. But if you worship the Supreme Lord by your occupation, then you are successful. The florist supplies flower to the temple. The potter supplies pots to the temple. The priest chants mantra in the temple. The kshatriyas, they protect the temple. He supplies the expenditure of the temple.
So, I mean, at the same time, you do see Srila Prabhupada using the word Shudra in a not so,
Merciful way.
not so like glorifying,
Prestigious.
yeah, it's not what
She's like the
here.
Yeah.
So, so why? Because it generally refers to the mode of material nature. Now, as far as devotees are concerned, those modes of material nature do not act upon, even though one may be engaged in the particular occupational duty. A devotee should not be viewed like that, that, oh, he is in the mode of ignorance, he is in the mode of passion. Yet, at the same time, we have to understand that that may be the inclination towards which that particular devotee, either due to his background or his activities, is susceptible to that. It doesn't mean that they are influenced by it. It means that they are susceptible to it. A Brahmana is susceptible to the pride that arises from the mode of goodness, which can lead to fall down also. And a Brahmana should recognize that. A Brahmana should, for instance, is criticized for using the deity to collect money. It's only something a Brahmana can do. It's not generally something that's referred to a Kshatriya or a Vaishya or a Shudra. So in that sense, there are ways in which these different varnas can become degraded. And the Shudra, his degrading quality is that of lamentation. The Vaishya is primarily of the quality, the degrading quality tends to be greed. A Kshatriya is generally hankering for fame and also anger. A Brahmana also anger, actually. Brahmanas can get angry. Brahmanas, they can become very prideful because of their knowledge and position. And that can cause. That doesn't mean that the Shudra can't become proud, doesn't mean Kshatriya can't become proud, but Brahmana especially can become proud because of his social status. So both are there, that these different varnas are respected, and at the same time they are also referred to in a not so glorifying way. So both are there. And sometimes it's felt like, oh, when you say something that's not so glorious, it's just, what can you expect? This is a Shudra, or something like that. They speak like this or whatever. They may think that, oh, you're against Shudras, but that's not the case. You're referring to a particular nature. It's like when you say, he lives like a pig, it doesn't mean we have anything against pigs. It means the mentality. It doesn't mean that we will go around beating pigs and exploiting them and killing them or anything like that. No, the pig is we respect also. His living entity deserves, in this regard, it's very interesting how you can see in the character of a devotee like Valmiki, how sad he feels that a hunter just killed a pair of croucher birds that were engaging in mating. He feels very bad, he feels very pained, even though he himself is free from the desire to mate. It's sinful to stop animals, to prevent them, to cause, especially to kill, when they are in the process of mating. It's very, very, very sinful. So he feels sad. He feels, but at the same time, so you see, there's a side where spiritual persons condemn such an activity of mating, but on the other hand, they get angry at persons who may try to stop that mating activity. It's considered sinful at the same time. And so this all can be understood only from the platform of knowledge. And otherwise, you cannot understand how this system can work like this. And there's respect, and at the same time there is condemnation of anything that will turn one away from Krishna consciousness. Okay.
How much do we read?
Because the land belongs to the Kshatriya.
Yeah.
They are a royal class. Because they occupy land, so they have
Don't throw that. It was almost broken 2 times.
Because they occupy land, so they have got the obligation to give protection to the country. Fight. They shall fight. And here at the present moment, the arrangement is that you have no land, you are landless, but you are called to fight. Why? This system is condemned system. The Kshatriyas, they are royal class, they possess land, so they had obligation to protect the country. Therefore, they were fighting. How a nice arrangement. Those who are occupying administration of the country, they should fight. But they are sitting very nicely in their armchair and calling somebody, go and fight and be killed. This system is not scientific system. Therefore, the caste system is very nice. They have now been condemned. Not condemned, but they want to revise it. But this is a very scientific system. Why? It is created by Krishna. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Chatur Varnyam Maya Shrishtam Guna Karma Vibhagashaha. I have created the 4 divisions of caste. It is not exactly caste, section, varna. So how you can stop? It is natural. So, Bhagavat recommends, Sutta Goswami is addressing, Atah Pumbir Dvija Shreshta Varnashrama Vibhagashaha. O best among the twice born, it is therefore concluded that the highest perfection one can achieve by discharging the duties prescribed for one's own occupation and according to the caste division and order of his life is to please the personality of Godhead. The system of sectional division, this is, he is Brahmana, he is Kshatriya, he is Vaishya, he is Shudra, he is Brahmachari, he is householder, he is Vanaprastha, he is Sannyasi. Or a subsection, he is potter, he is washerman, he is this and that. You may divide it or not, this section will be there in every society. So, Bhagavat says that you may be situated in any section, it doesn't matter. Either you be a Kshatriya or a Brahmana or a potter or a washerman or whatever you may be, it doesn't matter. Everyone should be satisfied by his own occupation. But how one gets successful by his occupation? He hasn't got to change the occupation. In the material world, one has to change his occupation for a certain kind of success.
You just continue reading. Pretty straightforward.
Suppose if you are a potter. Now, if you want to become an engineer, you have to change your occupation as potter. But in the spiritual world, you haven't got to change your position, and still you get success, spiritual life. That is the beauty. You haven't got to change. If somebody says that, sir, I am potter, how can I be Krishna conscious? It requires that one be a Brahmana. One should be very learned man, Vedanta philosophy. And one must have the sacred thread and this and that. So I am potter, I'm a cobbler, I'm a washerman. No. Krishna says, no, you do not require to change. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also says you do not require to change. Krishna says that Swakarmana tam abhyacharya. Abhyarchya, sorry. You must try to worship the Supreme Lord by the result of your occupation. Because Krishna requires everything. So if you are a potter, you supply pots. If you are a florist, you supply flower. If you are a carpenter, you work for temple. If you are a washerman, then wash clothing of the temple. Temple is the center, Krishna, and everyone gets a chance to offer his service. Therefore, temple worship is very nice. So this temple should be organized in such a way that we don't require any money. You give your service, that's all. You be engaged in your service, don't change your service, but you try to serve the temple, means the Supreme Lord, by your occupational duty. Shivananda. In the correct position, then, the temple would be the center of the community. Prabhupada. Yes, temple is open for everyone. Let them come and sit down, chant Hare Krishna, hear Bhagavad Gita. We don't say, oh, you are a potter? No, you are not allowed. We don't say that. Are you cobbler? Oh, you're not allowed. No, we don't say that. Everyone is welcome. Come on. And what is the business? Chant Hare Krishna. Everyone can do it. And what is the next business? We read some nice philosophical portion from Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. Yes.
So, the aspect of, so the main purpose of an occupational duty is to provide for one's sustenance, to provide for one's means. In the Brahmachari ashram, there is no difference between the varnas because they're all supported and maintained by the Guru. So they support the Guru. Their business, whether you're Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, doesn't matter. You just do the same thing. This is, you'll see that You'll see this in the case of Sudama and Krishna. They're just doing the same thing. They may be trained in their different skills differently, but otherwise their life, their living, their program, it's very similar. It's exactly the same. And they're all treated equally also in front of the Guru. The Guru doesn't give more special treatment for the Brahmana disciple and less for the Kshatriya disciple, nothing like that. Same in the case of, reading the Ramayana, says Valmiki has disciples. He has Bharadwaja, who is a Brahmana, and then he has Lava and Kusha, who are Kshatriyas, as sons of Lord Rama. So they all treat, they memorize the same verses, they live the same way. It's how brahmachari life is, because there is no occupational duty in the brahmachari ashram. Same thing, vanaprastha, sannyas, same. There is nothing like Kshatriya vanaprastha is going to be different to Brahmana vanaprastha. No, it's the same. Because in these varnas, in these ashrams, brahmachari, vanaprastha and sannyas, you don't have bodily maintenance is not a consideration. You're completely and fully dependent upon Krishna. In the brahmachari ashram, you're trained to become like that by depending on the Guru. The training was so severe that if the Guru doesn't call you to take prasadam, you don't take. That's how much you depended on the Guru. To remember you every time is how much you depended on the Guru for that. If the Guru forgot to call you, you don't get to eat that day. You just fast. And that's a lot of dependence. What if he forgets? Maybe he's busy. What if he got a headache? No, you just depend on the Guru. That's it. So that's the level of dependence that was taught in the brahmachari ashram. Now, that level of dependence is required, especially to be imbibed. The essence of that needs to be imbibed, so that even when one goes into the grihastha ashram, one ultimately understands, even though one is having some occupational duty which is required to maintain oneself, oneself, one's family, still one recognizes that ultimately Krishna is the one who's providing. Krishna is the source of my happiness. Krishna is also the source of my distress. So, and how is Krishna the source of my distress? Because he has formulated the laws of material nature, and whenever I flout them, whenever I go against Krishna's laws, then I'm in distress. So ultimately it's because of Krishna's system. So Krishna provides. Krishna is the source of everything. Happiness, everything comes from Krishna. So the grihastha needs to have this in mind, because he can go through his occupational duties, but ultimately he has to recognize that he is fully dependent on Krishna. He has to have this idea. Why? Because otherwise he will want to change his duties. He will want to modify his duties. No. If he has firm faith that Krishna is providing, he will not give up his duties. He won't renounce his duties. Because if I give up my duties, then I'm flouting the laws of material nature. Then Krishna will not provide. I can come up with big schemes to make money, but I won't be happy, because laws of material nature will not allow me to be happy. I can think that I will give up this wife and run behind somebody else, but whatever happiness I am seeking, I will not get that, because I have displeased the Supreme Personality of Godhead by my actions. I can think that this taking care of this child or this children or whatever, dealing with this is like a headache. I just want to give it up. I just want to run. But that's exactly what Krishna tells Arjuna. He says in the 18th chapter, he says that I can't remember the verse. He says that, and then he says, if you refuse to accept my instruction because of false ego, because of pride, you will be forced to act in this way anyways. What is the verse? Krishna. Huh? Yeah, it's like if I can even remember. That comes towards the end.
Yeah. Two verses. There's the one where he says, "You will cross over this by remembering me. You'll be able to cross over this material."
Yeah. Yeah.
Under illusion, if you're declining to act.
Yeah, what's the Sanskrit?
Svabhava
Swabhava?
Yeah, Swabhava.
Swabhava ena kaunteya?
Yeah.
Um,
Nibandha Swain.
Nibandha swena karmana. Then?
Kartam Nechasi.
Kartum nechasi enmohat karishye
Yavashopi.
karishye vyavasopi tat. So, kartum nechasi enmohat. That if you, due to bewilderment of false pride or illusion, whatever, because of that, you decline, you will be forced to act in this way anyways. But you will be unhappy. If you act under my guidance, you will be happy. This surrender onto duty, because there will be so many problems that one will face when one is executing occupational duties, because the occupational duties in the Grahastha ashram are varied. You have occupational duties that are directly related to one's income, one's sustenance, one's livelihood for economic. But there's also occupational duties. They're not called occupational duties, but you have other duties, ashram duties related to taking care of the wife, taking care of the children, engaging in. You have all of these things, and if one thinks that one will only perform these activities only when it is pleasing to oneself, then one has learned no dependence on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You haven't learned anything. But in the Brahmachari ashram, that level of renunciation and tolerance to the spiritual master's mission is taught, so that the Brahmachari, when he accepts the responsibility of married life, goes through that. And the Brahmachari is not afraid to accept a position which might seemingly not be considered from a material perspective as far as the Varna occupations go. It may not be the greatest. This particular disciple is being classified as a Vaishya, or this particular person is a Shudra, but he doesn't mind it, because it is after all only for his bodily maintenance. And that because he is used to living like a menial servant in the Guru's ashram, and the Guru might tell him one day he might glorify him for something, another day he might chastise him for something. One day the Guru will give him a service which is very amazing, very exalted. He is allowed to speak. Next day he is asked to clean the toilet. It doesn't matter. There is no difference. So learning that the person does not become hung up. Oh, I am Shudra. I am laborer. I am just a laborer. He doesn't get hung up with these things. As long, what is the success of one's varna? The success of one's varna is that one's body is maintained. That's it. One body is maintained, one's family is maintained. There's nothing more that's required than this. If one is meant to be wealthy, then by one's karma, money will come and one will become wealthy, finished. If your karma is not to be wealthy, you can work as hard as a donkey as you like, you will not get money. You just won't get money. It's just how it is. You see devotees, sometimes several devotees, they may renounce everything, come join the movement full time, this, that, and they just get ancestral wealth like anything. They just become wealthy. They didn't do anything and they got so much money. Why they got so much money? Because prarabdha karma. Another poor fellow brahmachari joins, At least in this country you don't have to worry about this. But in India, father leaves mountain of debt and dies. Fate. He's got doesn't get wealth. He got debt. He still has to marry his sister. All these things. He can't stay in the brahmachari ashram. He can't be a brahmachari. He's forced. Personally I've seen. You maybe know some examples in India. Yeah. Is there. Technically in Vedic culture, the son is responsible for the father's debt. Because in Vedic culture, if you can inherit the father's wealth, then you can inherit his debt also. Otherwise, renounce both and go away. Don't take the wealth also. They won't take. Traditionally, those who are renounced, their ancestral property, they won't touch. They won't touch it. Because for the spiritual person, it's the same thing. It's flip side of the wealth is one side of the coin, the debt is the other side of the coin. It's the same thing. You renounce both. That's the culture of renunciation. It's difficult. I just have money just walks into the door. Why you say no? Anyways, the point is the spiritual person uses it in Krishna's service. If he's really renounced, what he will do, he will use it in the mission immediately. He won't just keep it in his own personal pocket and like this. And no, otherwise don't be. It's not a renounced person. Use it in the service of the mission. So, therefore, one has to understand that it is not by one's, that one may desire so many things. I want to live life like this, I want to live life like that. And this. What we desire might not be what we deserve. And the devotee should be trained, especially in the brahmacharya ashram. Why are you trained? Only this many sets of clothes, this place to lie down, you don't even get your own room. This, because you're trained to understand that learn to become satisfied with the basic necessities of life. Then when you become, even if you become householder, the point is my family provided? Is everybody, do we have food on the table? Do we have prasadam? Not food. Do you have prasadam? Are you able to provide for yourself? That's it. What about 10 years down the line? What about 20 years? What about anything for anybody? We just got shocking news from our god brother that he is third stage breast cancer. Where this cancer comes from? Where it comes? Nobody knows. Even just we were in the prasadam hall, different devotees were saying different things. One saying GMO food, another mobile radiation, and then I don't know, something else. Some people say this high tension electric pole or this cell phone tower. We bought this device when we came, remember? We were walking around with this scanning thing, like this expensive thing. It's like, oh, it's like better when you're behind the stone. You don't know what the hell that is. And what it is doing to us also.
Who is breast cancer?
Huh?
Who is breast cancer?
One of my god brothers, it just came out.
Oh, that was somebody here.
No.
Oh, I thought you were saying it's from the...
So it's like, yeah, and all those, all the vegetables are getting zapped by God knows what. It's like, so, so it's, you don't know where everything comes from. You may have a lot of wealth, you may have a lot of plans, everything is also planned so nicely, and then this stage 3, stage 4 cancer comes and everything is over. Stage 3 doesn't mean it's over. Stage 4 means finished. So, you don't know what's in life. So, a devotee is interested as long as his occupational duty means it provides for his bodily maintenance of his family. He executes his duties in a manner that is not sinful. He's able to provide for himself and his family. They are able to live comfortably without, extreme, without luxuries or things like that. They live simply and spend the rest of the time to chant Hare Krishna, as Srila Prabhupada says here in the end. He says that that's what, whoever is open for everyone, let them come, sit down, chant Hare Krishna, hear Bhagavad Gita. This is what we need to organize. We need to organize society, at least so that devotees can hear Bhagavad Gita. We can chant. And this attitude we need to cultivate even in the brahmacharya ashram. In the brahmacharya ashram also you can become like a workaholic. You can just work and not do any reading, no sadhana. Rounds are trash. Reading is what is reading? Reading is forgotten. And then you can just work and it is not going to help one. It won't be helpful. One should take time to engage in spiritual practice. One should take time, become peaceful enough to be able to attend the aartis, attend the classes, read every day, chant one's rounds, take sufficient rest, but also not waste time, and in that way be Krishna conscious. If these things are not cultivated when one is in the brahmacharya ashram, then it is impossible. It's impossible to lead life properly. You'll get diverted. This is very important. And in this sense also, this training, which was traditionally only for men, is also required for women these days, because the brahmachari, they also need to know how you, if your spouse doesn't understand these principles at least, then how can you live life? At least for Westerners, no clue, no understanding. Therefore, in the West, even brahmacharini ashram is extremely important. And brahmacharini ashram is not a waiting room to get married. There is some serious training there that needs to be imbibed. And this should be understood as it's required. For now, it is required. So, because these qualities, they also need to understand. They would also need to learn to understand, to depend on Krishna, which means to learn to have a sense of duty. This sense of duty is extremely important for devotees. Otherwise, you cannot be self-motivated, and you won't be Krishna conscious. It's not possible to be Krishna conscious. There's a sense of duty, then even if one may be engaging in activities that may not be directly Krishna conscious, still one can be Krishna conscious. Because one knows one is doing this for Krishna's pleasure. Okay, 702. Any questions, comments? Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry. Krishna. So, I got three questions. They're like, the first two are short. So, Shudras weren't sent to Gurukul, correct? Shudras?
Traditionally, no.
Okay. Then my next question is, so in the Vaishya, Kshatriyas, and Brahmanas. Yeah. So when Krishna was in Gurukul, so it's mentioned that he learned 64 arts. So those arts were taught to all the Gurukul students?
Yeah.
Or, okay. Was Krishna and Balaram taught like separately? Because it seems like they learned like an exceptional rate. I
don't know.
Okay.
This might be a question for somebody with more knowledge of exactly how the education system was imparted. And I'm sure there's multiple variations and methods of how it's done. I know that our godbrothers who are engaging in Gurukul and all this, they went and they observed how some of the traditional Gurukuls were being run and things like that. There is a unique challenge in the sense that practically almost all of the Gurukuls that you might otherwise find in India today are almost solely dedicated for the Brahmanas.
Yeah.
There is nothing for Kshatriyas and things like that. So in that sense, a lot of the information has to just be gleaned from the text. And then you're also dealt with in another unique situation where in our Gurukul system, we are training everyone regardless. Our Gurukul system is also different to what Krishna Balaram did. It's more similar to what Lord Chaitanya did.
Yeah.
It's a school.
Yeah.
He went every day and came back home. Even by Lord Chaitanya's time, it was different. And the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself went through a different kind of Gurukula.
Yeah.
He didn't. In that specific sense, you can understand that his mom was still feeding him. He didn't have to wait for the Guru to call him to take food. And it wasn't in the middle of the forest. It was right in the town.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be like, anyways, you brought up an interesting point. Would we consider that like Gurukul though for Lord Chaitanya, or was that just kind of just like some educational facility? Or
It's good.
I mean, because he wasn't like, it seems like he didn't really get any like spiritual knowledge because he didn't become a devotee.
Yeah, I mean,
at least as the
but you see, that's the point. Many times, Duryodhana Kauravas also went through the Gurukul in Dronacharya's Gurukul.
Yeah.
And they just became straight up demons. Okay. Generally, the Gurukul system was. It's only meant for actually training one in occupational duties.
Yeah.
And training one the sense of dharma.
Okay.
It was generally dharma.
Yeah.
But we are doing Daiva Varnashram, where we are using these aspects of Varnashrama to inculcate devotional service directly. If one is fortunate, like to have a guru like Valmiki, then you are also automatically Rama conscious, you know. But otherwise, you know, Gurukul is just Gurukul, you know. And the principles are still the same, you know. And Karna goes and learns from a particular art, specifically military art from Parashurama. You know, he's disciple, guru, the same type of relationship that you will see.
Yeah.
So, in the case of Lord Chaitanya, what was his guru's name?
It's like, I mean, the
I
teacher
keep
guru.
forgetting, yeah.
I don't remember.
Who was Sandipani Muni's incarnation
Yeah.
in Lord Chaitanya. Anyways. So he learned what practically all of the Brahmanas did in that day and age. This is what they did.
Yeah.
They would themselves become a teacher of all these like different like, you know, schools of logic and grammar and nyaya, tarka, and all this kind of stuff. And then they would start their own school like Lord Chaitanya himself did. And this is how they would maintain themselves. And in this way, Navadvip was that center of learning where people from all over the country would come. So there was always demand for more teachers. And so you become a student, you become a teacher, and then but it's all Brahminical. But it was useless, ultimately.
Yeah.
The Vaishnavas were lamenting. And, but the point is that Gurukul is meant primarily for occupational training. And we don't have any information what the Vaishyas were doing in Lord Chaitanya's time. We do have an instance. I read a Narottam Das Thakur story, which is just after the period of Lord Chaitanya, where he's just Brahmanas come and teach. Again, the Brahmanas are supported, and they are kayasthas, they're landowners, on behalf of the king, collecting some taxes on behalf of the king, and like this. And Narottam Das had teachers coming, little similar to, it reminded me of how Prahalad was being schooled by Shanda and Amarka. And these Brahmanas were teaching him, and they would specifically teach him how you can be also a local zamindar. How you can be the local, you know, and he was taught about economy, taxes, and, you know, trade, and this and that. And Narottam Das Thakur couldn't bear it. He was like, I can't hear one more word of this stuff. You know.
There's no Kshatriya Dharma as well at that time. There's no real Kshatriya training.
Kshatriyas were there, but, you know, because they were Hindu kings, like in the, like the Rajputs in Jaipur and all that. But
Perugia also.
Maharaj Pratapa Rudra was there and his descendants were there. But in the particular area that Narottam Das Thakur, which is Bengal and all this, was all controlled by the Muslims, even during the time of Lord Chaitanya. So then you had like Muslim appointed local, like, they used to call them like kings, but they're not actually kings. Narottam Das Thakur, Kayastha. Servant of the king, respected like the king. Given like that royal. And so they would maintain the Brahmanas. And the Brahmanas would only specifically come and teach him only things related to his like duties. That's Shudra technically. But he needed to learn these things because he had to be the servant of the king. So there's an example where the Brahmanas are coming specifically teaching this. There is no recollection of them specifically teaching him anything about Krishna consciousness. They didn't. But our Gurukul system is different.
Yeah. Okay. And then my last question is in regard. I'm just going to look at it real quick. But so you were talking about like we have particularly like, anyways, just the principle of we have some duty and we shouldn't give that up to pursue like other things, even though that may seem like that will be like happier materially. So my question is that like, at least like. So with devotees, there's sometimes like the conception that it's there that there's like worldly like duties and dharmas and things, and then there's like spiritual duties. So with that like consideration, it seems like sometimes people they like devotees kind of do some crazy stuff, like as far as like neglecting their duty. And just like one example, like it's like common thing, unfortunately. Like somebody like leaves their spouse and marries another spouse, and then they go on in like Krishna consciousness, and then they do seem like happy. So how do we like understand that? Because you're just kind of making the point that like if we reject our duty, then we'll be like unhappy.
I mean, if someone's going to be blind enough to think that happiness and distress is something that one will see immediately, there will be an immediate effect, then I don't know what you have understood about karma. The point is that even Arjuna, one of the reasons he's afraid is papameva shreyadasmad hatvaita natatayinaha. Or then he says like aho bata mahat papam kartum vyavasita vayam. We are committing such a great sin. It doesn't mean that you will immediately experience the reaction. But the fact is, one is such a great thing can easily become a major obstacle in going back home, back to Godhead. That at least should be understood. That you cannot live sinful life or commit sins and expect to go back home, back to Godhead. It doesn't work both ways. Now, yes, Krishna can be merciful and ultimately it's up to Krishna. All that is fine, but there is generally a system in place, and Krishna has given these laws and these instructions are there in the scriptures, the Vedic text, because they have real implications. And it is, you can see in the cases of stories, like we'll see in this book also, of how great personalities, even they had to go through hell sometimes for just some small thing. The example is given of Janak Maharaj in this book. That he forgot to show respect to a cow. And he kind of neglected Surabhi when coming from the heavenly planets back to his kingdom. Surabhi was there, and he forgot to show respect to Surabhi. And therefore, before he went to Vaikuntha, he had to briefly go through hell. It's just a pastime, ultimately, because he is pure devotee. Janaka is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna mentions Janaka in Bhagavad Gita. How was that verse? Yadadacharati sheshas tatatevetaro janaha sayat pramanam kurute lokastadanuvartate astita janakadayaha lokasangraham evapi sampashyam kartum arhasi. The first line I forgot. Anyways. But there Krishna mentions that Janaka is called Astita, that he is Astikya, he is followed. So there is real consequences. Even Bharata Maharaj gave up his spiritual practice. It seemed like he was happy with the deer. But what happened later? He was happy with the deer. Is there any such description that he was sad with the deer? No. He was pretty happy with the deer. So we can also be happy like that. But that doesn't mean anything. If devotees have to have that much sense to not give so much importance to this momentary fleeting life that we have. Kamala dala jala jivana tala mala, this, life is like a water on a lotus leaf. Why is all this said? So, it's all rosy. People like to say that, That anybody passes away, they went to Vaikuntha. Anybody, or like generally Hindus like, we saw one person. His wife passed away and attained Brahman. How attained Brahman? Anyways, you can feel and it makes you feel good, fine. Doesn't mean it's true. Okay.
I have a question.
Did Mahatma?
About the Gurukula, I remember in Salem, then the one year they make some new group of Gurukul boys, and there's maybe something around 100 boys want to came, maybe something around 100.
Very
maybe.
few stayed.
And they choose
Yeah.
like whatever they have
more Brahmanical the qualification. And I remember some like a good kids, like the sons of good devotees. They also want to give them to Gurukul, but they not like have a Brahmanical qualification. But still they engage them, but they engage them in Goshala. It means they want to teach, and they also have some classes, but not like a full day classes. Some classes they can attend, but mostly they do some like a work.
Yeah.
Because
the mind restless. They can't sit and simply. You can't force. So okay, you want to engage.
So much energy, so much power, and now they don't have like the quality. And another point that it's difficult to recognize really like one of the guna karma is like the sattva guna, raja guna, like more than others. So, sometimes it's completely mixed and very very
challenging, very challenging.
Very very mixed. Sometimes devotee recently I saw one. I tried to recognize one devotee, and he really can do anything like Shudra, very professional. Simultaneously, he know how to trade, very very nice, very perfectly. He like to fight. He know how to manage. And simultaneously, he also know like the shlokas, and he understand philosophy. It's amazing. It's when he knows something. This is not something is clear. You can understand.
Rajrishi.
And because of that, sometimes the gurukuls, the kids, they join the gurukul, and maybe in few first months or some maybe 1 year they can recognize what is the real position of this person, how we can engage him. Because even Gurukul boys, they do some sevas, like different kinds of services. And what to speak about Brahmachari also, they have the cashiers, they have the drivers. Sometimes they can even switch. But sometimes they really can do something special.
I mean, we are not so much like, we are not trying to be rigid on the occupation. The point is that, if one is able to engage something, and family is provided, you are in the farm community and some different services, and you are satisfied. Main thing is to be satisfied. You are satisfied, and you should have time for Krishna consciousness. That's the main thing. And to try to train one's children and not have anxiety about what I'm going to do, how I'm going to get job, more this, more that, like this, like that, more money, not this chasing rat race civilization. That's the main thing, that's all. Generally, many devotees, they tend to fall into they tend to be good at a certain thing, and then they generally continue with that. They may be capable of doing other things, but generally there is a main thing that they are engaged in. Especially when they become grihasthas, generally is one main thing. That they are primarily, this is main service. He may do some other things, but this is main service. So then that kind of and then generally children are also tried to train like that. But it's not ultimately, as long as they are engaged, it's okay. And okay.
Prabhupada was talking about the professions, and I was thinking how in Vedic times, people's professions were a bit more noble. Like Prabhupada was mentioning the cobbler, the washerman, the florist, But in thinking about like practically, time, place, circumstance in our world, it's like, devotees work at Amazon, devotees work at Home Depot, and because we're so weak as a spiritual society, we're subjected to live according to the rules of the demons.
Yeah. And it induces a demoniac mentality in ourselves also.
Yeah.
Hard.
It's like, okay, I'm gonna leave the Brahmachari ashram and go be a cobbler. It's like, you're gonna get bashed on the head. Like, what do you mean you're gonna be a cobbler? The occupations in Vedic times were a lot more noble, but it's not even practical or even possible in today's society.
Do cobblers make pots? Is that what a cobbler is?
No, cobbler's shoes.
Potter.
Potter is pot.
You thought potters always sell pot to people.
Okay, so I wanted to read.
British word for that.
I also wanted to kind of introduce some other kind of like reading. Okay, 7:20. Yeah. All right. I guess if there's a lot of questions, we'll have to skip things like this.
We can do it next time.
No, the thing is, like, I want to read a little bit of this, and Prabhupada's
Okay.
reading should be the main thing. But then Prabhupada's making so many points, and that just takes the whole time to discuss.
Prabhupada
The
says
time to discuss other things.
the laborer class addressed as Chaudhary means leader.
Chaudhary.
So
Yeah,
this
that
seems
surname
like
is very
completely-
common still today in India.
It seems completely contradictory how the Shudra is called leader.
Hey, it's like a respectable title. It's just a respectable term. It can seem contrary that the Kayastha is called Maharaj. It was there in that Narottam Das Thakur, Rajakumara, Maharaj, they would call him. It's a respectable title. So it's a title of respect. All living creatures are given respect, and so same like this, they are given different kinds of respect, but they are all respected, and it's the idea it's the culture to be respectful, that they are leading by their example. By being a nice Shudra, he is teaching, yes, you can be like this, and you can still provide, and you can still be a spiritually elevated person. Doesn't matter. So if one takes like that, then yes, they are all leaders. Actually this is interesting, but anyways, another example. Is Guru Maharaj said this recently? It's like, or is it, we read this in Brahmacharya book, I'm not sure. But sannyasi is called Maharaj. But it doesn't mean that he should think that he is like Maharaj. Huh? It doesn't mean that he should live like Maharaj. It doesn't mean that he is Maharaj like real king, Kshatriya. Just respectful title.
I see. Okay.
So, what does Maharaj got to do with sannyasi? Nothing.
Yeah.
It's completely opposite. Sannyasi Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't want to meet the real Raja, Prataprudrama, didn't want to see him also. What is that? He said this is a verse that see him is like, even to see a person like a worldly enjoyment, there is a verse.
Oh, that hanta.
Hanta hanta vishabhakshana topya sadhu. That's the verse. What is it?
Like drinking poison, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like drinking poison. To even see the face of a person like this is like drinking. He states this really heavy statement.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Well, 7:23. Okay, so I want to read some of these other things because these are all part of like very important aspects of Vedic culture, especially of understanding the importance of Gomata. And what other scriptures, the Puranas and others, the stories that they have, it's really amazing. I'll just start from the introduction. Cow or Dhenu is one of the 7 mothers for a human being as described by Chanakya Pandit. Therefore, she is known as Gomata or mother cow. The word Dhenu comes from the root Det, which means a cow with a suckling calf, as seen in many paintings of Lord Krishna. A cow is known as gau in Sanskrit language. In fact, the word cow seems to have been originated from the word gau. Gau is a word which is both masculine and feminine. Therefore, whenever the word gau or the word cow is used in general, it is to be understood that it refers to cows, bulls, and bullocks, castrated bulls for draft purposes. A whole book can be written just about this word gau and how deep its meaning is, and still the glories of this word gau cannot be possibly explained to its fullest extent. To just give a glimpse, the word gau refers to a special ray emanating from the sun globe, which can only be absorbed by cow and earth. In fact, Mother Earth is also considered to represent the form of a cow as described in scriptures. Mother Earth provides grains known as krishyana, that which is produced by agriculture for subsistence, while Mother Cow gives dugdana, milk and its byproducts. Cows, earth and the sun rays, all 3 of them provide for protection and prosperity of living beings. Prapya pushtya loka samrakshanena gavastulyaha suryapadaihi Pritivyam. The word Gau also refers to Vedas. Gomuke Charshrita Vedaha Goshu Veda Samutkirana. Vedas help us understand and serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, while Mother Cow helps us understand the Vedas. The word Gau is also refers to Goddess Saraswati, who is Vagdevi, or one who bestows the power of speech and knowledge. Atavagvai Sarparajni. Serving cow as well as consuming milk products ignites righteous knowledge and intelligence. As mentioned before, this is just a glimpse about the glories of Gau. Much more can be described. That is why it is said, Gunaika Desha Vachanam Parayanam Natu. Meaning, it is not possible to describe the glories of Mother Cow. Whatever glories have been described is said to be understood as just a fraction only. Mahabharata Anushasana Parva 51:21. So whatever I read is from the Mahabharata. One of the most important foundations of the Daiva Varnashram culture or Sanatan Dharma culture is agriculture and cow protection. Therefore, it is declared that first of all, cow protection has to be achieved. Tratavyah pratamam gavaha tratah trayanti tadvijan go brahmana paritrane paritratam jagat bhavet. First of all, cows should be protected. Cows thus protected will in turn ensure protection to the brahmanas. Thus, when the protection of the cows and brahmanas is achieved, then the protection of the whole world is ensured. Harivamsha Purana, Harivamsha Parva 55:31. It's very interesting here that the Harivamsha Purana first says, protect the cows. First protect the cows. Further, an interesting statement is made in the Vriddha Harita Smriti. Krishistu Sarva Varnanam Samanyo Dharma Uchyate. Krishivbrithif Pashupalyam Sarvesham Na Nishidhyate. Agriculture and cow protection are described as a common duty for all the Varnas, and they are not prohibited for anyone. That's also a very interesting point to understand, that it says here that agriculture and cow protection recommended for all Varnas. It doesn't mean that only Vaishyas are meant to be engaged in that. In other words, cow protection is the basis of a civilized society upon which food production stands, and in turn the whole economy is working. Therefore, just like Lord Krishna, cow is the center of a civilized society. Very interesting that today, in today's society, cow has no role. This is not economy. This is not society. This is not civilized. It's very interesting. I'll read one more part. It's only 7:28. I'll read.
There's an online question from a devotee. I don't know if you want.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. Yeah.
What does financial support look like for
What does financial support look like for temple-dependent grihastas
here?
here?
Or would that even
be a thing?
Financial support for temple-dependent grihastas. You get your needs provided. You get a certain stipend, certain allowance that is generally given. Now, as far as that's for the temple, as far as exactly how it is for a Varnashram community, it varies according to the farm community, and generally, at least in Nandagram, they have like different systems. But I won't get into that. That's needs are provided for. You get a little allowance. That allowance is in Hungary, for instance, they would get half of it. Anyways, there's different systems. Half of it has to be spent within the community. Half of it can be spent outside the community for their other purposes and things like that. Nandagram does it differently. Anyways, the details are different. Okay, 7:30.
Small comment?
Yeah.
The Upanishad says we should study Nishans and knowledge side by side. So we met this devotee and he was telling us about this is glorious, but he was telling us about how just down the road from him there's a dairy, but all the cows there are female. And as soon as the females give birth, all the babies are stripped away from from their mothers. And anyways, we hear about the glories of protecting cow, but like you said, there's like, where is cow protection in society? mothers are being stripped of their babies, and the cows is being tortured, everywhere we go.
Hare Krishna. Okay.
You sent this lecture by Devamrita Maharaj, and I love the way Maharaj brought this up with the audience about how cow protection's lacking. He said, okay, raise your hand, because Indian congregation is most of the devotees there, wherever he was preaching. He said, okay, raise your hand if you send your money from Australia to India to support your parents. And everybody's like, oh yeah, we do that. And it's like, it's very expensive, right? To take care of your mother. But then he was saying how, as generally in devotee society, we buy commercial milk. And why don't we do cow protection? Because it's very expensive.
Yeah.
But, okay, so same thing with you taking care of your mother in India. It's very expensive. Maybe might as well just forget about your mother. And, let her just die.
Yeah.
And that kind of puts it all into perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Jai. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Vancha kalpa